Welcome back to the vlog. In today's episode, I put on my bluffing cap and we get into it with 2-6 suited. We also get into a massive hand with pocket kings. You do not want to miss today's episode. Without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, welcome back. We came to play today. We put on the $20 straddle, so this hand is the casual 2, 5, 10, 20. And we get the first card, it's a jack. The second card is an 8. And when 3 players decide to limp the $20, it's back on me, and I think this is the perfect spot to go massive, take down about $60 to $70 of dead money, show everyone we are not effing around today. I decide to make it $80 more, and thank goodness everyone folds around, so we take down about $70 to start the night, which always feels awesome. And I told you guys, I am here to play and gamble today, as one orbit later, everyone is in the mood. The $20 straddle gets put onto my right, and I put on the $40 straddle, and I look down at 9-3 offsuit. So yeah, not playing this one, but today is going to be crazy action. Everyone's here to gamble, I guess. All right, time for the first interesting hand of the night, and we have an actual hand here as we have pocket queens. We are under the gun, and we make it $20. There's no crazy straddles in this hand, and we pick up 1, 2, 3 callers, which is not ideal when you have a big overpair, but nonetheless, this is the situation we're in. 4 ways to a board of 6, 6, 7 with 2 spades. Definitely calls for a pretty interesting board. There's a lot of 6x that they could have, a lot of flush draws. Nonetheless, when it checks to me, I decide to c-bet here for $35. Don't have to go too big. Definitely want to get some value from some weaker hands, and the player to my left decides to raise right away to $120. Ugh, pretty gross, and when it folds to me, I'm hating the situation right away. Like I said, I think they're going to have some 6x, but he's in early position. I think more times than not, he's either trying to see where he's at with a 7, he's either trying to put in a semi-bluff here with an open-ended straight draw, maybe he's got a monster hand like 8, 9 of spades, maybe he's got the ace high flush draw. Not sure exactly what he's got. There's so many combos, but we cannot fold just yet. I decided to put in the call. I was thinking about re-raising, but I think that's an overplay. Let's head to a turn, which is an ace. Absolutely disgusting. If he has one of those ace high flush draws, we are basically drawing stone dead. So I check it over to him, and now he decides to continue for a super small sizing of $75. And while this is a good price for us to continue here, I think he just knows he has an absolute lock on the hand with some ace X of spades, and we, like I said, are drawing stone dead. So I begrudgingly decide to fold. Let me know what you guys think down below, and on to the next hand. All right, I am done playing nice. For the next hand, we look down at deuce 6 of hearts in the small blind. I decide to call a $15 raise, which is the absolute worst thing you can do from the small blind, as you are in the worst position, but hey, I did it anyway, and I'm showing you guys how I played it. We flop a flush draw, and we check the flop, planning to check raise, but the flop checks around, so hard to check raise when nobody bets. And now we turn a pair to go along with our flush draw, so I check, planning to check raise once again, and the action checks all the way to the button, who I'm like, okay, please bet, or else I just completely botched this hand, and there's no way I'm winning it. But he does bet for $30, so now it's time to spring the trap. If I did have pocket deuces, I would play it in the exact same way. Check the flop, check now, and now check raise. So I check raise to $110, and he thinks for just a short time and decides to make the call. I don't think he's going to have many strong hands here, as he did check the flop. He did not 3-bet pre. So I'm looking for a good river here, a heart, a deuce, a 6, but we actually get an ace, which is a pretty good card because I also could have ace deuce if I'm going crazy like this. I don't think he's going to have many strong aces, so I decide to cut out some chips and bet out for $170, and I get the exact result you want when you're bluffing. He snap folds. What a perfect time. We show the deuce 6. We are not here to F around, and let's head to the next hand. All right, time for some action. What do you say, huh? The hijack opens to $25. We put in the classic 3-bet to $80, my favorite sizing. I always choose this sizing, and it folds all the way to the big blind, who decides to shove his stack in the middle, and I did not get a count in the moment, but afterwards I did realize it's $450, so it's actually...
I call. Oh. You have a pair at least right now, or no? No, I don't. I have pocket tens.
a pretty big 4-bet jam, but I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of ace king, ace queen. I don't think the big pairs like aces through jacks are just going to be jamming here. And when the initial raiser folds, I decide to snap call. Let's go. Let's see what he's got. And he has ace 4 suited, so I guess he was going for the bluff. Maybe he just wanted to rebuy. Like I said, people are in the gambling mood today, so let's head to a flop. And oh my goodness, he flops a flush draw. Look at the percentages up top. It's a lot closer now than it was pre-flop. We're going to a turn, and it looks safe. It's a deuce headed to the river, and it is clean. The queen, I love it. The queen, the lovely lady. Push those chips our way. Let's go. And now we get pocket kings for the first time of the night. Spoiler alert, we pick them up again and again for a third time. You've just got to watch and stay tuned. But we are in the big blind, which in these loose, crazy, fun, aggressive games is like the best spot for it because there's always going to be action ahead of you, and that's exactly what we see. Under the gun opens to $15, the hijack calls $15, and now the button decides to 3-bet to $60, which is actually a pretty small sizing. He should probably be going about $70 to $75 or $80, so when it's back on me, I do think he actually has a good hand here, so I should size up myself, but I come in for the 4-bet out of left field to $145, and it folds back to the button, and he makes the call, so we have an amazing development here. About $350 in the middle, headed to a board of 9-4-3, a beautiful, beautiful board. We are obviously c-betting here. As I did say, I do think he has a good hand, so I decide to c-bet here for $135, and although it's 1/3 pot size bet, I do think that this is a grave mistake. We just have an absolute lock on the hand, and I do want to size down to even like $80 or $90. I feel he'll be pretty confused, and he might even float us with like king queen suited. I mean, obviously he's not going anywhere if he has hearts, but I'm saying even if he has like king queen of spades for the backdoor spade draw as well, he might float for $80 or $90. And obviously we want that as we have those hands drawing basically dead. And it does seem that we choose too big of a sizing as he folds and we take this one down. Alright, time for some real fun. We look down at 4 cards, king 2, 3-5, playing a single board PLO Bomb Pot. We usually play double, but this time it's single, so everyone puts in $15. We go to a flop and boom, we flop the second nut flush. I'm up pretty early in the hand as I think I'm in the big blind or under the gun, so I decide to bet out for $20 and we get 3 callers, which is pretty reasonable. I think 2 pairs would call, sets would call, lower flushes would call. So I'm just looking for a clean turn, and that's exactly what we get, the ace of diamonds. So now when it checks to me, we still want to go for some value. We do have to be careful because someone could have the ace high flush, but I think they might have raised the flop. I mean, they'll definitely raise now, but I decide to bet out for $60, and once again, 1, 2, 3, all 3 players call $60. What do they have? This is shaping up to be a great pot, looking for a clean river, one-time dealer, and boom, the river is clean. And now when it checks to me, I know for certain I have the best hand because the ace high flush would definitely have raised. They definitely have some kind of straights, sets, lower flushes, so I continue. I bet out for $275. Maybe I should have gone a little bit smaller, but I'm just not really sure what sizing I want to pick. I think a big sizing looks suspicious as I bet all 3 streets. I think a smaller sizing looks suspicious, so I think I picked something sort of in the middle. I don't know. What would you guys have picked? And the first player folds, the second player folds, and the third player folds, and 2 of the players said they had lower flushes, so I don't know how one of them didn't call the river. And just to be funny, I show the deuce of hearts, and let's head to the next hand. Alright, time for pocket kings for the second time of the night. This is insane. This time we are on the button. We decide to open it up to $25 over 2 limps from under the gun and +1. And now the big blind decides to put in the 3-bet to $110. It's a pretty big 3-bet, so when it's back to me, I look over at his stack and he has about $500-ish, so I decide to just put in the call. We'll take this one to the flop. I think it'll be pretty easy to get all the money in. If we were a lot deeper, I would consider putting in the big 4-bet, but let's head to a board of 10-6-3 with a club draw, pretty good, and now he decides to check, which is pretty interesting. He might have ace-king. I was about to say maybe he'd have ace-king of clubs and we could get it in, but dummy, we have the king of clubs. So when he checks, I decide to c-bet here for $80 and he makes the call, so not really sure what that means. He could still have like pocket jacks, pocket queens, be really bad if he has pocket 10s, but maybe he's playing it cautious with pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. Who knows, but we're headed to a turn which is the queen of spades, which is pretty bad. He could have queen 10 suited. Like I said, he definitely could have pocket queens. So when he checks, I mean, we could check back here, but I think on a double flush draw board, I want to continue betting. So I bet out for $220, and when it's back on my opponent, he decides to move all in. And like I said, he started with 500. It's like 150 more. So I just snap call. We're going to a river. He asks if I want to run it twice. I say I prefer once, and he says, okay, I oblige. So we're headed to the river. The river comes, and it's a 10, and I'll just play the audio.
You have a 10? I have kings.
I have kings too.
There's one for
So pretty funny, he somehow had the other 2 kings in the deck. We couldn't hit running clubs, and we're on to the next hand. Okay, time for the 3rd time with pocket kings. The first time we didn't make too much money, the second time we chopped, so can we get some type of value here? There's an open to $15, and I decide to 3-bet it up to $60, and we get a cold call from the cutoff, which then brings in the initial raiser as well. So we're going 3 ways to a flop here of Jack 9-3 with a flush draw. It's a pretty good board, so when the initial raiser checks, I decide to c-bet here for $80. Like I said earlier, when it's heads up, you want to go a bit smaller, but now with 2 players in there, we can size up a bit, and it's not like I'm going crazy. I'm just going half pot here, and now the cutoff decides to min click us to $160, just min raises us, doubles our bet. The initial raiser folds, and it's actually a pretty interesting spot here. He definitely could have pocket 9s. He could have pocket jacks that he was cold calling and didn't want to go crazy with. He could have jack 9 suited. He also, on the other hand, could have a plethora of draws. He could have queen 10 suited for a massive draw. He could just have something like, I don't know, king jack suited, anything of that nature. So I decided to flick in the call, definitely not going anywhere, hoping it's not like our pocket queens that were earlier. We're looking for a good turn card, and that's exactly what we get. Now there are 2 spades and 2 clubs out there, so I continue to the aggressor, pretty much just knowing he's going to bet here, just trying to figure out what sizing he's going to take, and maybe if we raise here or if we call, but he decides to check it back. I don't know what type of hand he's doing that with, but let's see a river, which is a queen, which is slightly concerning, but not too concerning. I mean, the only hands that we're going to be losing now to are pocket queens or queen jack suited, but all of the flush draws miss and most of the straight draws miss. The only straight draw that gets there is 8-10, but I don't want to check and have him check it back if he was just trying to see where he's at with a jack. So I decided to put out just like a little feeler bet, but a little bit of value, hoping we don't get raised. I bet out for $115, and after a small think, my opponent decides to put in the call, and when we show the kings, he shows ace jack suited, and I said that was an amazing play. He slowed me down. Very well played by him. I love to employ that sometimes. If I don't know where I'm at with top pair, I'll raise, but maybe he should have went a little bit bigger, fired the turn, fired the river, and we probably would have folded, but nonetheless, happy to take it down, and let's head to the next one. All right, for this next hand, we've got quite an interesting spot here. We look down at ace 10 suited. We decide to call a raise to $15, and so do 2 other players, so we're going 4 ways to a flop here. The flop checks through, the turn checks through, and on the river, we river the ace high straight, but obviously a 6 beats us. The small blind open folds, which was funny, I laughed, and now the initial raiser goes ahead and bets $35. So he's definitely going to have an ace a large part of the time here, so we could put in the raise to try to bluff him off that ace, but I decide to flick in the call, and now when it's on the next player who has position in the hand but was not the last player to close out the action, the small blind closed out the action, he decides to raise to $200, and it's a super weird spot because it does just look like me and the initial raiser don't have much, as he just bet and I just called. He's a loose and aggressive player, so he definitely can recognize that this is a great spot to put on some pressure, but when the initial raiser folds, I think it's just really not worth it to call off with an ace here, and I think a lot of people would get blinded by the fact that they have a straight, maybe not even realize that a 6 beats them, and they would just flick in the call. But I think a very large part and an underrated part of my game, and you guys might understand this and see this watching my vlogs, is I pick my spots very, very well, not in a nitty fashion, but in a spot where I know I can get max value, where I know I'm playing against weaker opponents, etc., etc. And I feel a lot of you guys don't take the time to think about your opponents, pick who you want to play against at the table, which might sound predatory, but but it's the truth. If you think that there's a player at the table that's better than you, just avoid pots with them. And I think that's what I wanted to get across in this hand, that sometimes, although you might think you have the best hand and although you want to put on your hero cap, which trust me, I love doing, sometimes it's best to just wait for the profitable and good spots at the poker table. So I decided to fold this hand. Let me know what you guys think down below. We pick up an insanely good hand for a double board PLO bomb pot, but unfortunately we don't hit anything on 2 boards. I don't know how we whiffed both of those, which brings us to this hand. And I told you we were in the gambling mood, as we are in the $10 straddle. The next player raises to 20, and after 1 call when it's back on me, I think it's a good spot and a good hand to squeeze with, so I make it 110. The player to my left folds, and now the other player who flatted the 20 decides to go all in for $150. So obviously I call for $40 more. He asks if I have ace king. I say no, and we're probably flipping.
You got a pair?
Nah, we're probably flipping. You're probably ahead right now.
You got ace king?
No.
Ace jack?
No, I have king 10. Suited.
King 10?
Yeah, suited.
So a little friendly conversation. I don't know what he's got, but we're headed to a flop. The flop gives us absolutely nothing, but we turn open-ended, so looking to see a 9 or an ace, and no. And my opponent chose pocket 8, so we actually were a pretty fair flip, and he wins this one, and we're headed to the next hand. For this next hand, we look down at ace queen offsuit. There's an under the gun open to 15 and 1 call, so we decide to put in that 3-bet to $80, putting on the pressure all day today, and just the initial raiser makes the call. So we're going heads up to a board of 9-7-3, 2 clubs. We do have the ace of clubs. So when he checks, sometimes we can check these hands, but like I said, putting on the pressure today, I decide to c-bet for $60, and he snap folds before I even get the bet out there. Love to see that, and let's head to the next one. And as you see, that player might be a little bit stressed out. He's trying to have a good time. He grabs a glass of wine, puts it on the poker table, and we look down at ace 9 suited. I decide to open it up to $20, and like I get all day today, multiple callers. So 3 people call $20, going to a board in which we flop an ace. A little bit tough because sometimes people could have ace 10, ace jack, and we're out kicked and effed. But when they check it to me, I decide to c-bet here for $40, and just that same player makes the call. He's having a fun time, loose, drinking some wine, so looking for a clean turn, and I think that looks like a pretty good one. So when he checks, I decide to continue betting, and he folds, so continuing to take down the pots and pile up our chips, and pile up we do, as that was the last hand that we played. After a very fun and eventful 6 hours, we rack up, profiting $750 today. Hopefully our winning streak can continue. Spoiler alert, our next couple vlogs are going to be winners. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and peace out.